tonight's presentation so it can be shared with others. I have been talking with Mark and trying to get him to North Babylon for a couple years now. Had him lined up for this spring. Unfortunately, we had a little setback to that, but when he shared with me that he was doing video conferencing this year, decided to sign up for that and bring him to you. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Leanweaver. Mark has spent 20 years working in sports as a baseball agent, media relations director, TV and radio broadcaster, author, producer, and coaching convention director. He has spoken at over 65 high schools in the past 3 years and is a frequent guest at athletic directors meetings both statewide and regionally. Mark also is a champion for special needs causes and anti-bullying organizations, donating money from every time that he speaks to those organizations. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Mark, and you can get underway.
I certainly appreciate the introduction, Mr. Friesen, and probably more than anything, just a few housekeeping notes as we begin tonight's presentation. This is an interactive educational workshop. In and out in 45 minutes, I'm going to speak very fast. I'm going to cover a ton of material rather, that'll be shared on the screen. All of that material Mr. Friesen has. And as he pointed out, he is recording this presentation. So taking a step back in the acknowledgement of not only your athletic director and Mr. Friesen, but also the North Babylon High School and School District. Look, as he just pointed out, we have tried to put this on the books for a while. I would consider him a bit of a Long Island pioneer because this is just the third presentation via Zoom or webinar that I have done on Long Island, having already spoken at least live and in person pre-COVID at about 30 schools between Nassau and Suffolk County. So I believe that his, initiative to put this together for you tonight speaks volumes of not only who he is, but quite honestly, how he truly has the best interest of your son and daughter at heart, mom and dad. And unfortunately, too often, as parents, we tend to, the coach has it against us. The athletic director doesn't have our back. Who is this person that has an axe to grind? We don't put enough acknowledgement and trust into the individuals that truly take these jobs in the best interest of your kids. And so I always like to remind mom and dad that, and it's the reason I'm here tonight. Now, with that said, I'm going to take a peek and see that we have 10, 12, 15 participants logged on so far. That number might increase. I'll say to this. There are so many people out there that think they have this process figured out. They think they know it all. Their kid's going to get a Division I scholarship. Their kid doesn't need to hear about character or how it matters, not so much in high school, but certainly trying to get into college, then in college, and then, of course, in life. Those individuals, and you know on this Zoom, who those people are that are absent. I don't care about them. I care about the ones that took the time to log in tonight and to participate. And for those of them, or those who have a legitimate excuse, a conflict, that's why we're recording this, because we want to make it available to everyone. So I will tell you personally, a thank you to all of you tonight, a hats off to say, I appreciate you being here. Because I will tell you that as a kid that grew up in Westchester County, grew up in Yorktown, Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Nassau, Suffolk, Fairfield, Bergen, it's all the same. We all know it. We're all part of that New York City tri-state area. And I don't think there's a whole lot of a big difference between one county versus the other. Not in terms of geography, the way it looks landscape-wise, and certainly academically or even athletically. We are all cut from that proverbial same cloth. I'm one of you. And I'm saying that to probably the parents because we're about the same age, but definitely to those student athletes out there. Why? Because I was you. I was that athletic player, regardless of sport, but baseball was mine, who went on to have the opportunity to play in college. For me, Division II, non-scholarship, Stonehill College. Many of you are probably familiar with that school outside of Boston, but that was me. And I spoke to the small D1s like the Paces, and I spoke to the Division IIIs like East Stroudsburg and Keene State. A lot of those schools will probably sound familiar. Why? Because I'm one of you. But the reality is the process of 25 years ago hasn't changed a whole lot. What has changed is that there is a third-party vendor on every street corner telling you, give me $2,500, give me $5,000, and mom and dad, I guarantee you I'll find a place for your kids to play. The lack of initiative taken by the student athlete and the family to do this process themselves, like 25 years ago we did. This need or urgency to have a private instructor to run off to the next showcase, that's changed. And then this complete absent-mindedness of not rounding out the profile of the student athlete. Yeah, okay, they're a player. Yeah, all right, they're pretty good in the classroom, but what else? Where is the raking the leaves down the street of the elderly couple? Where is the shoveling the driveway that we did for the neighbor? That is gone. And truthfully, even in today's society, I don't think that's enough. Where's the volunteering with the special needs kids? Where's the helping out in the inner city for the less fortunate? Where's the you love animals? How come you're not donating some time to the ASPCA? Because that is what is missing in today's youth. You know what we're trading it for? Fortnite, FIFA, sitting in our basement and making TikTok videos. That's not going to help you get into college. It's certainly not going to help you play at the next level. And mom and dad, it is not rounding out your son or daughter's character. Now, if it sounds like I am yelling at you, let me make something incredibly clear. I am not yelling at any student athlete, but I'm getting on you, mom and dad. And that's going to be a bit of a theme tonight. Some of the things you might like what I have to say, some of the things I might turn you off. But the bottom line is I am here to give you an educational, open-minded workshop that, yes, some of it will be opinion. I'll let you know when it's my opinion, but most of it is fact. And I have statistics to back it up. I have realistic, common sense, real-world examples to prove my points. So that's a little overview of what we'll do tonight. We're going to open up in a minute here, kind of the setting the table, one sheet, the itinerary, if you will, but I want to just at least make this point. And I apologize if I'm a little bit either nasally or groggy, because as a Major League Baseball agent who came from Westchester County and played small Division II non-scholarship baseball, I guess things have turned out pretty good over the last 20 years. I'm a big league agent that lives in Manhattan Beach, California, 500 feet from the sand, which is a lot different than Manhattan Beach, New York. And I say that because I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish. But this process that we're going to talk about tonight has so much to do with that development. And when I can tell you, for those Yankees fans out there, and I'm sure there are many on this call, I represent Jordan Montgomery, who kept you in Game 4. I represent Kyle Higashioka, who a lot of you want to be your starting catcher next year. I represent the flamethrower rookie Nick Nelson, who's going to be in consideration and in talks to be in the starting rotation next year. I'm fortunate to represent those guys. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love what I do, and I'm so appreciative to have that chance. But here I am on a Thursday night in late October on this call with you because it's a passion project of mine. It's because I know how hard it is to be around these young men and women, albeit I might be around some of the more premier athletes, or dare I say professional athletes out there. But I'll tell you what, the messaging tonight that I give to major league players and their wives, brothers, sisters, moms, dads, whatever, is no different than the messaging that I will talk about this evening for the high school son or daughter, mom and dad. And that's where we really focus on character. So that's a tiny bit about me. And now, Mr. Friesen, if you don't mind, could you please bring up that Character Matters one sheet so we can set the itinerary? We'll talk about recruiting. We'll certainly spend an awful lot of time on character. And then in the end, we'll wrap things up in about 45 minutes total. Now, you'll notice that the name of the company, which is, I suppose, the intentional play on words, Perfect Placement, that is my website. That is my total side gig of being a 24/7 major league agent. And for those parents out there that remember the movie Jerry Maguire, I'm a lot more like Bob Sugar. And I say that sort of tongue in cheek with a smile. But you can email me, okay? You can go to that website and email me directly. I hate to say it, we all have a lot of free time nowadays. Probably not what we want, but we have it. I am happy to speak to anyone on any one-on-one level, just as virtue of what North Babylon has provided tonight. So let's briefly go through this. Character matters, social media, volunteering, anti-bullying, and college athletics. We're going to start with the college athletics. Mr. Friesen already gave you a little overview of me. I'm a big believer that character matters, and I'm going to prove it tonight. I also think that all high school student athletes, in addition to the academics and the athletics, we just said it, you need that third component about contributing in society. You need to have that awareness about the absolute requirement of character, awareness of social media dangers and its consequences, volunteering in the community, leaders in anti-bullying, and that's the one we're going to finish on. And if I say anything tonight, especially if these kids are going to tune me out now and for the next 39 minutes, I'm going to ask you to really be locked in when we get to the part about bullying. And then athletes that participate on their varsity and summer league teams, I believe there is a spot for you in college. I really, truly do. But you really need to identify the right college first, not the right athletic program, but you have to find the right college. And I'll say this. Look, I just mentioned Westchester's not a whole lot different than, let's say, Long Island or Connecticut or even Northern Jersey. Mom and Dad, the likelihood that you are going to pay $100, $150, $200, maybe as much as $250,000 over 4 years for your son or daughter to go off and play at college, you're paying for them to play. I would hope if I were investing that sum of money, that you would look much further beyond some Division III college coach telling you that your kid could be the starting goalie, the starting right wing, the starting point guard, the starting catcher, whatever, in 2 or 3 years. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about percentages and how you are more than likely better positioned to try to play Division II, Division III NAIA. We'll get into that. And then finally, getting cut from the team does not mean it's a life sentence of never having anything to do with athletics, especially in college ever again. I'm telling you, if you are not good enough because the talent level is too high, you got hurt, you got cut because the coach made a change at the last minute and there's a new sheriff in town and it just didn't work out, you could always knock on the coach's door, offer to volunteer your services. There is not a college program in the country, including at the D1 level, that is going to say no to a kid that is willing to offer their services for free to do whatever that coaching staff asks of them. And that kid will be a part of that program, albeit maybe not as a player, but they will have surrogate parents by default and coaches. They will have immediate friends via teammates. And that too often also gets overlooked. We are trying to set up these young men and women to not necessarily succeed in college and prepare them for college athletics. We are trying to prepare them for life. So there we go. Our table is set. So let's go to a couple of statistics. But in the meantime, Mr. Friesen, if you could just bring up the full screen and I'll talk to everyone here one-on-one. I want everyone to kind of pay attention to these stats. And the reason why is because I'm going to say to this one time. I am not here to dash dreams. I am not here to burst bubbles. I'm not to ruin your life with these stats or trying to give you the factual what is really out there in this process. I'm simply just trying to offer a very direct communication of how this world spins. So let's talk numbers, because if we're athletes, many of us know decisions made on rosters and success, they're based on statistics. So percentage of high school athletes who earn a spot on a men's or women's Division I team. Less than 3% for football, water polo, field hockey, lacrosse, golf, swimming, track, soccer, and cross country. Less than 2% for basketball, softball, and tennis, and less than 1% for basketball, wrestling, and volleyball. Now, if anyone is familiar with Mr. Friesen's background, he is a hockey guy from Canada. Well, hockey players, ice hockey players, have the highest percentage of success at D1. That's 5%. So I suppose that's a feather in the cap for the hockey players. Now, if you were listening very closely, you will have noticed that I said high school athletes who earn a spot. I didn't say get a scholarship. I said earn a spot on the team. I'm talking about the player who is literally the last member of the team at the far end of the bench, the one who is the practice player, who is there to make the starters better, the one who will see no time at all as a freshman or a sophomore, get garbage time as a junior, get a token start as a senior. That is the player I am describing in those 1 to 2 to 3% to play D1. To get that elusive, in my opinion, considered white whale unicorn scholarship, that is about half of those. And I realize, as a kid that grew up in Yorktown, in a mecca of lacrosse players, boys and girls, And I get there's other really aggressive sports on Long Island. I know that, look, you got a bunch of big leaguers from out there. You've got unbelievable field hockey. I'm not saying there are not exceptions to the rule. I get it. Somebody has to make up those percentages. But you would know if you're D1 material. Why? Because every single Division I college coach knows who the Division I talent is. And they will be knocking on your door. They will be showing up at your games. They will be calling you and texting you and emailing you and inviting you to campus as early as your freshman year and as late as your sophomore year. So if you have missed that window, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is unlikely. And thus, we should be responsibly focusing on A, the school that's really the best fit for us, because mom and dad, you want to talk about scholarship? You're going to be the scholarship to the tune of $100, $150, $200, $250,000 for them to go play at the D2 Stonehills and the D3 Oneontas. These are facts. These are realistic. And this will be the most sobering statistic and probably the last one I'll give you tonight. Of all of those sports I just mentioned, baseball has the highest probability of success. Not because that's the vocation for me. It's because the stats don't lie. Baseball has 130,000 high school seniors playing coast to coast, from the tip of Maine to the very end of Southern California outside of San Diego, 130,000 of them. And 9,800 of them will go on to play at a four-year school. 9,800 of the 130,000. That is 7.5%. And that is Division I and Division II and III and NAIA combined. 7.5% will go from being a high school senior to a freshman at a four-year school in any one of those sports, with 7.5% being the highest likelihood. So you know how I flip that stat? 92.5% of all of the high school seniors playing any sport across this country will not go play in college. And now all of a sudden, scoffing at this notion that D2 is beneath us, D3, we're better than, you might want to reevaluate your priorities in terms of the level of athletic competition there. Because the most challenging, the most remarkable athletic accomplishment that any one of these young men or women will ever have in their entire life will be making the worst Division III team as the worst Division III player in the nation. Because when you go up against a 20 or 21-year-old man or woman adult who is bigger and faster and stronger and smarter than you on the field, as an 18-year-old doe-eyed freshman, that is nothing like anything you have faced before, including if you played varsity as an eighth grader. These are facts. So now that we probably have a little bit of a better understanding of how hard it's going to be to play D2, how hard it's going to be to play D3, how strong those athletes are. You don't have to drive up to Boston. You don't have to go out to Syracuse. You don't have to drive down all the way to Baltimore. You have plenty of colleges in your neighborhood. You've got the Adelphis. You got the Farmingdales. Go watch those athletic programs when COVID lifts, and you could go watch and get eyes on an athletic program and an athlete and how good they are. You're gonna start to reevaluate where you are on that athletic spectrum. And that is why, mom and dad, that investment for these 14, 15, 16-year-old kids who are just like us, who just want to play, we need to have better priorities lined up going into, quite frankly, the recruitment process of ourselves. Now, I said I'm a major league agent, and while I represent 3 Yankees and players on every single team, and I have 75 to 100 clients that I deal with on a daily basis, I'm not the only agent on this Zoom call anymore. In fact, I have many agents on this Zoom call, because for every single student athlete out there, you are now an agent too. And unlike me, who has 75 plus players to represent, you have one. Now, I realize we can't interact. I'm not in your auditorium where I could call on someone, but you can still speak out loud. For all of the kids out there, all of those student athletes, you're sitting with your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your buddy, whomever. I need you to answer this question. Who is your client? And I know that there are individuals out there that just said, it's myself. I have to be my own agent. I am my own client, because that is a reality. You are going to have to know your pros. You're going to have to know your cons. You're going to have to know your strengths. You're going to have to know your weaknesses. You're going to have to sit across a human being, a coach, whether it's an assistant coach or a head coach, after you tour a campus, and you're going to have to look them in the eye, and you are going to have to talk about, why you are a fit for their program, why you want to go to that college, what you do well off the field. It's not going to be about all of your on-field accolades. It's not. And that is going to be your first real job interview. And when I can tell you, if there's anything that's a sure thing on this call tonight, if you are not prepared for that type of meeting, if you are not buttoned up to represent your client, you're not going to make the team in that meeting with that coach, but you can get cut from that team before you leave that office. This is not running off to the showcase. This is not spending money on private instructors. And this is not what anyone else out there is talking about. So let's get into it. All right, Mr. Friesen, can you bring up the sheet that says voicemail? Now, while he's doing that, I'm going to quickly glance through what I used to spend a lot more time on. And the reason I stopped doing that was you have guidance counselors. Okay, now I don't know how the Zoom world is working and how things are in New York, albeit I'm from there, and I'm in a very locked down COVID California. But I understand the situation in New York is pretty similar. You have to use your guidance counselors, all right, as resources. They are not the enemy, and they are also not equipped to be, you walk into the office, you call the office, you email the office and say, where's my kid going to college? No way. I'm going to give you a couple of very simple, I'll phrase it this way. I don't have a master's degree in guidance counseling. I don't have an advanced athletic administration degree and a master's degree in science like Mr. Friesen does, but I do have a PhD. A lot of you probably don't realize that. My PhD is in common sense. And that is what we are discussing here. Because when you say to your son or daughter, do you want to go to a big school or a small school? How about we ask, do you want to go to a school that's going to have 100+ students in more of a lecture auditorium with a professor who's going to be talking faster than me for 65 minutes when these kids are used to 43-minute algebra that they're going to text their way through? So the learning environment and that jump from high school to college in itself is going to be a challenge and something they're not prepared for. So do they want to be in that class with 100, 125 students in a lecture hall? Or do they want to be something a little more intimate, 25, 30, 40, 45 students? Now, I know where I'm from. You know where you live. I have yet to have, in 65+ presentations in person or via Zoom, I've yet to have too many kids say, I want the big school, I want the huge lecture hall. They oftentimes say, I want the smaller class size. Boom, we're looking for schools under 6,000 students. One box is checked. Easy to do that with your guidance counselor. How about how far from home? Is it 2 hours? Is it 3 hours? Is it 4 hours? They've been to Baltimore. They've been to Philly. They've been to Syracuse. They've been to Albany. They've been to Boston. They've been to Upper New England, to New Hampshire and Vermont. We know that. Is it, hey, I remember that trip to the Liberty Bell. I remember that drive. That's probably the appropriate distance. Is it nobody brought chargers for their iPhones and the battery's about to die after 3 hours? And so that's where I max out and tap out and say, let's get out of the car wherever we are. I mean, that's up to you to have a discussion as a family, but generally for where you are in Long Island, it's about 3 hours. And you know what? 6,000 within 3 hours gives you dozens of schools to choose from, whether you choose to go north, whether you choose to go west, or whether you choose to go south. Then, of course, we get into the academics, right? Well, what do we want to study? Nobody's declaring a major at 15, 16, 17 years old. In fact, you're probably not declaring it until 19 or 20. So when your son or daughter, mom and dad, says, I want to be a doctor, I hope they are my doctor one day. But the reality is when they have to go take college bio and chem and all these advanced sciences, and maybe while they're trying to juggle this adjustment, societal adjustment, right? The reality of they've been dropped out of the bubble they live in onto a campus 3 hours from home with 6,000 strangers, and now you're going to throw them in a class 3 times a day that's 65 minutes long, and you expect them to be an athlete, all of a sudden they're not keeping up with the old pre-meds. And they come home Thanksgiving weekend, they say to you, you know what? I think I want to change my major. And if you went to the best pre-med school, because that's the best pre-med school, and there's not a lot of range for making an audible or calling an audible and making an adjustment, you're in trouble and you're looking at a transfer situation. And you know who that's on? That's on mom and dad. Because you could have seen if they had bio and chem or physics or whatever else is out there in the sciences that they do well in at the high school level. Math, social studies, English, whatever. So many liberal arts colleges that are 6,000 or less within 3 hours are going to have literally 5, 10, 15, 20 majors out there, and many of them are going to match up to your son or daughter's likeness. Extracurriculars. This one always gets overlooked. Your kid loves to ski and snowboard, right? Mom and dad, you have been going on these trips, flying down mountains on skis and snowboards for, who knows, since they were 5 years old. That is part of their DNA. They love it. That is their escape. Well, I'll tell you what, if you remember college, you are going to fail tests. You are going to get brokenhearted. You are going to have the worst game of your life. And hopefully it doesn't happen all on the same day, but it's going to happen. And you're going to need a release. And you're going to run off to that mountain. And you're going to need to just jump on that snowboard and clear your mind. And you can make that choice at a school that is 40 minutes away from that mountain, or you can make that choice at a school that's 4 hours away from that mountain. And when that kid gets in the car, mom and dad, I hate to say, but so much of this presentation is geared toward your open-mindedness opposed to where is the next showcase and can we play D1? When your son or daughter gets in that car with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those 6,000 strangers that you've never met to drive at 18 years old, and I mean, the ink isn't even dry on the license, and they're going to take that 4-hour trip instead of 40 minutes, they are going on that journey with or without your permission. Those are facts. We know it. So I'm a big believer that the extracurricular component matters. So now we know what we're looking for. We're looking for a school with less than 6,000 that's within 3 hours that has sciences, bio and chemistry and physics, and is going to be in the more like upper either New England or upstate New York or even parts of Pennsylvania where there's some mountains. And there's so many schools to choose from. And those are D2s and D3s. You know, the same D2, D3s, mom and dad, 100, 150, 200, $250,000 that you're writing checks on. So because I'm speaking to a group of agents, no longer just student athletes, this is their job. And I'll repeat that. This is their job. This is the job of the agent, not mom and dad, not the coach, not the athletic director, not the third-party company that you just wasted $3,000 on. Because you know what they're going to do? They're going to find an opportunity for you. They'll do their job. I'm not putting that in question. They're going to call you all excited and say, I found a college for you. Great. Where are we playing? Well, it's actually Buffalo State. 20,000 plus undergrad, 9 hours away. Oh, that's funny because that doesn't fit my under 6,000 within 3 hours. Well, you hired me to find you a school to play at. I did. Buyer beware. No refunds. That's going to happen. And so we could have done this entire process ourselves. We are able to identify what we want and are going to invest in. And here's the news flash. Mom and dad, for all of those student athletes out there, pay attention to this. You can go to any college that you get yourself into, and your parents can pay for it. You think that me being an agent and the ticket prices are high and the hot dogs are overpriced, that's the business of sport? The business of sport? That's at the college athletics level. And it's not just the D1 Alabama, South Carolina's, USC's. This is D2, D3, NAIA2, because you are paying to play. So now that we know what we want, we need to leave this voicemail. And you can either spend $30 on the collegiate directories of the world, or you could just Google baseball coach Stonehill College email. And you know what's going to come up right away? Pat Bowen's info and his phone number and probably the staff and the staff's email and the staff's phone number. We're going to leave this type of voicemail. I'll use me. Hey, Mr. Friesen, if you could just scroll as we go. Ready? Hi, Coach Bowen. This is Mark Lineweaver, and I'm a junior at Yorktown High School in Yorktown, New York. I'm calling to introduce myself because I'm very interested in Stonehill College, and I plan to visit the campus with my family on November 17th. I'm definitely interested in the communications program and obviously playing for your baseball program as well. I'm the starting catcher on the varsity high school and summer league travel teams, and I have a 3.1 GPA and a 1080 on my SATs. In addition to being an athlete, I'm a member of the Unified Special Olympics, and I volunteer my time in the community with that organization. I appreciate that you are super busy with your team, but I did want to reach out and directly let you know my sincere interest in Stonehill College and meeting you personally when I come up to visit that campus. My name is, my cell phone number is, thanks, Coach. I look forward to hearing from you. Now, For the parents out there, if you were going to go buy a car, let's say it's going to be a luxury car because we're talking big numbers, we're talking major dollars in college. You're going to go buy a $100,000 car. Doesn't matter if it's a Beamer, doesn't matter if it's a Mercedes, a Range Rover, a Lexus, whatever. It's going to be the souped up, really nice, expensive car. You're not walking into that showroom and saying, hey, sport, toss me the keys. I'm going to take this baby for a test drive. No, they're going to say, sit down. Let me run your credit. Let me check your license. I have to pre-qualify you before I hand you these keys. That's a fact. So is what we just did. We pre-qualified ourselves to those colleges that we've identified 6,000, 3 hours, sciences in the mountains. We've pre-qualified ourselves. We've earned the right for this coach to take us seriously, to call us back. And they will. They will. All right, Mr. Friesen, can we go to the email? I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because it sounds and looks so much like that voicemail. But when you send an email to that D2, D3 coach, okay, and notice I am intentionally leaving out Division I because you are wasting your time by reaching out to Division I. They would be reaching out to you. And I'm not talking about, hey, here's an email. It's $500 to come to our camp at UConn. That is a scam that helps their athletic program function and offset costs. I'm talking about a legit recruiting meeting, and you would know it as a freshman or a sophomore. And because I made the point about lacrosse earlier, I get it. Field hockey, even baseball, basketball, there's an occasional between 1% to 3%. The highest percentage, as you know, is lacrosse. And even if it's at 15%, what's going on with the other 85% of the players? They're going to be in this conversation. So the subject line is going to be my voicemail and my name and my high school and my graduation year. So my voicemail, Mark Lineweaver, Yorktown High School, class of 2021. This is the type of email we are going to leave. If you notice, and we're not going to go through it, it looks so much like our voicemail. We are just replicating it. Why? Because we are going to call and we are going to email and we're going to call the head coach and the associate head coach and the assistant coach and the graduate assistant coach. And when they don't call back and they don't email back, we're going to do it again. Why? Because the squeaky wheel gets the grease and we are trying to buy our opportunity to play and go to that college. We haven't applied yet. We haven't even seen the campus. We don't even know if we like to coach or can play at that program. But the buying process and that sales recruitment process has to start somewhere. This is one of so many countless steps. And we are sitting back waiting for someone to come to us. I entitled this, Maximizing This Pandemic. Every single one of you can be doing this right now. And at some point, because your dollars and cents will play at that school and your academics are going to get you potentially into that school, they are eventually going to engage. And when they do, they are going to ask you, do you have a video? Can you send me some material? And when I might tell you, this one's personal opinion, right? This is just my belief. You don't have to go spend $750 or $1,000 on some fancy edited set to jazzy music with these gnarly graphics to get their attention of the behind the back shot through the legs, off the post, into the net. Whoa, wasn't that the best? We submitted it to Sports Center. These coaches, they're teachers. These teachers want to see practice. You're going to always spend more time on a practice field than you ever will as a game player on a field, as a actual in the game playing type of everyday, whatever the position, you set the record for most games played in the history of the school. You're always going to practice more than you play. Go in the backyard, grab someone. Sometimes you don't even need it. You can post the iPad or the iPhone or the computer. You could take the video yourself. And instead of guessing what these coaches want to see, how about you ask them once you get this correspondence going? Oh, sure, you're coming up on the 17th. That's great. We'd love to talk to you before or after practice. You know, in the meantime, can you send me a video? Absolutely. Coach, what would you like to see? Well, I'd like to see you work on X or Y or Z. Can you send me that video? Sure. 30, 50, 70, 90 seconds worth of material. Boom, email to them in real time. Now you're corresponding with them. Now you're gaining their interest. Now you're recruiting yourself at a college that's on your list that you want to go to. That is the difference of what I'm talking about, what I am encouraging, what so many athletic directors, so many coaches, so many people that are in the world around you every day truly believe as well. But for some reason, their opinions fall on deaf ears because it ain't D1. It's not all the razzle dazzle. And you know what happens? You run into the kid who had it all figured out, the people that aren't on this call. You see them at the CVS or the Stop and Shop or whatever on that same Thanksgiving. after they've graduated. Hey, what's going on? Are you playing in college? No, it didn't work out. Bad body language. Everyone else's fault. Everything's an excuse. Thinking about transferring. That is absurd. Because you had so much time in this process to button up your game plan. You had so much time to execute what your goal was. But instead, we just waited for white whale unicorns. And I believe that's on mom and dad. I do. I really believe that's on mom and dad. So I'll make this point. The biggest enemy in this process for everyone is time. You are always going to run out on time. Okay, you could waste your time because the coach at Buffalo State invited you up because they saw you and they liked you and they said, hey, we'd love to come talk to you. The XYZ company that you hired told us about you. We watched your video. We like you. Yeah, but you're 20,000. That's 9 hours away. That is a waste of time. That is not a good use of productive, hey, how do we get to the next school and actually fill what we want? I hope and think that everyone sees the point I'm drawing to. All right, so let's go to the questions now. And actually, can you go full screen? Can you go full screen for a minute there, Mr. Friesen, and then we'll go to the questions. I want to point this out as well. If I were in front of every student athlete, I would still go back to a question that I oftentimes ask way, way earlier than where we are now. But now that you have a pretty good lay of the land, I'll ask it. I gave you that example about the Division I just to make the team, end of the bench, no time as a freshman, no time as a sophomore, garbage as a junior, and then token start as a senior. And then I can do the opposite, and that's option A. And then I can say, okay, over here, option B to that same student athlete is, look, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to compete as a freshman, start as a sophomore, be in the lineup every day as a junior, and perhaps by the time you're a senior, you're a captain or an all-time record holder. Which one do you want? This is no word of a lie. I've never had someone raise their hand for option A. And so then I always ask, and this is probably more effective in person if we were at the North Babylon auditorium. I'd say, well, if these student athletes just answered B, which is Division II, Division III NAIA, and they just told me that that's the level they want to play at, and I've been here for half an hour, then who wants to play Division I more? The student athlete or mom and dad? Because I got my answer, and you heard the answer from your son or daughter, mom and dad. And sadly, it's about mom and dad wanting the sweatshirt and say my kid plays D1. So I think we're all on the same page here about the financial investment, about putting our priorities together, and then how we go about getting ourselves on coaches' radars, and then even satisfying, let me show to them what I look like as an athlete, because they ain't coming down from Maine on a Tuesday to watch you play in drizzle in April at some field on Long Island. They're not doing that. So you got to make it easier for them. All right, let's go, Mr. Friesen, please, to the questions. So we're going to kind of pick up the pace here, and then we're going to transition into character. So we might go a little bit into overtime. All right, so I'm going to fire through these pretty quickly. It is a buyer's market. I said that. Where you can get into and where you can afford, you need to control this narrative. All right, everyone's so excited that there might be some interest from a coach or a program or a college. It is your future. That is your future for all my agents, student athletes out there. It's also your future, mom and dad, and your investment. So I mentioned earlier, you're going to sit across from that coach. They're going to put you on the hot seat. They're going to want to know, okay? They're going to want to know these answers. They're not going to want to know about how you were the defensive player of the year, had you led the conference in scoring, because when you go to a school with 800 or 900 or 1,500 kids, I'll argue that you get cut from the team at the high school level that has 4,000 undergrad, or for that matter, 4,000 students, let alone 4,000 undergrad. So what might a college coach ask when you visit their campus? What might you want to study? What are some of your interests outside of sports and academics? Why is playing in college important? What do you do best off the field? Easy to talk about what you do well. What are your deficiencies? What do you need to improve on? Okay. What aspect of your game needs improvement? What type of person are you? Describe yourself. How would you make my team better when you're not on the field? And then the flip side of that is it's your turn to talk. All right. Mom, Dad, hey, Johnny, you got any questions? Actually, Coach, I do. Do you have any organized study halls for players? Will there be an academic advisor or monitor for the progress each semester? Do you allow your student athletes to pursue work study in season to offset costs, because, you know, we're struggling. COVID killed us, and you know, we definitely need some help. Work study is going to be a big thing for us. There could be some conflicts. Okay, how much time is missed due to class? Because I don't care if you're playing Division III in Western Massachusetts. You're going to go to Vermont. You're going to go to New Hampshire. You're going to cut out of class early. You're going to get on a bus at 11 o'clock. You're going to go 3 hours. You're going to play at 3:30. You're going to be done at 6:30. You're going to get back on the bus at 7:30. You're going to get home at 10 or 11, and you still have an 8 a.m. class, and you still haven't written that paper. That is reality. So you might want to know about some of these answers. How would you describe your campus life? Are you going to fit in there? Do your student athletes live on campus or off? Because mom and dad, when you're paying that huge chunk of change, you know, for the room and board, what if everybody's across the street at the house that's off campus for literally a fraction of the price? Your son or daughter is not even taking advantage of what's going on campus. And then this is the big one for me, especially since I'm in a community now of educators. You're going to, if you want to go be an elementary school teacher, and they say to you, you're going to go do your student teaching, and you're going to do it your spring semester, your junior year, and we got you set up at an elementary school from, I don't know, 8:30 to 4:30 every day in that spring semester, so you can get those credits to put you on that track so you can graduate and get that job, and you play softball. You are not playing softball that spring. All real life, all real world, and we are talking about years in advance of being to that position. All right, Mr. Friesen, let's transition and head into, give me the overview sheet, please. Give me that character matters sheet again. I think this I think it's important to see it. And then I'll have you reduce it. I do want to just point out some things that aren't on the screen. It's on a sheet that I usually do in person. And that is, as I talk about the incredibly unlikely probability that you get some sort of athletic scholarship, don't forget there are so many academic and merit scholarships out there. So briefly on academic, right? You're running around spending $10,000 on, you know, the showcases and the travel and the lodging and the gas and the entry fees and the private instructors. And I would say you can take 10% of that money and take it and give it to a tutor who's going to help your son or daughter go from a 2.8 to a 3.3, from that 1080 to a 1340. And all of a sudden those marks jump, and all of a sudden that college you're applying to is like, whoa, this kid, look at this jump. That is an impressive academic resume. We're going to give you $7,500 in scholarship money. Doesn't come with the fancy sweatshirt, but it's out there. And so is merit, but I'm going to hold a beat on getting to the merit part. So awareness of social media dangers, all right? And when I tell you we're down the home stretch, we're going to cover these 3 points and we're done. This is a weapon. And you are nuts if you don't think it is. And we know what the real weapons are on the street. We see them all the time. We hear about them on the news. That is a more dangerous weapon, in my opinion, than anything else that is out there. All right, and here's why. The lack of awareness of social media dangers, including for major league players, and I have to advise the player and the wives, of what you think, what you photo, what you video, and then most especially what you choose to hit upload, post, send, whatever. That could be remarkably damaging, and I don't care what people tell you, it never goes away. Believe me, it never goes away. And let's just go through some real life, real world, actual practical examples. So whether you're talking about your TikToks, your social media platforms like Facebook, or I don't know, you've got what? Instagram, and you've got Twitter, and you've got, I don't know, Snapchat, like whatever's out there now, okay? They're all the same. But the bottom line is when, I don't know, a bunch of kids are listening to some rap music and they decide to quote Nipsey Hussle or Kendrick Lamar or Post Malone, and they decide to use the N-word in that quote because that's their favorite rap artist, and they're not the racist, but they're just quoting the artist. Let me make something very clear. They're the racist, because no one is going to think, accept, believe that that N-word used on that tweet or that forum was meant to interpret as any other way. So now you use the N-word, you're a racist, and that's not going away. You'll be remembered as such. Or a lot of downtime, we are all acting a fool on TikTok with the dancing and the joking, and everybody's together, whether they're outside in the leaves or whether they're downstairs in the basement, and somebody yells out, "You're so gay." This is so gay. I know you are not referencing the good old jolly happy time you're having. You know exactly what you mean. And you have Major League, NFL, Hall of Fame worthy broadcasters like Tom Brenneman, who didn't even know his microphone was on and thought he was in commercial, who has had 25 years of unbelievable good standing on national television, get fired like that. And he didn't lose his job. He probably lost his entire career based on one word. That is someone at the highest level. If you don't think that that is going to be interpreted other than anything, then you're a homophobe, you're nuts. And when you decide to post that with the N-word, when you decide to make that homophobic slur, and you don't think that that college coach that we just spent so much time, so much effort reaching out to, building a relationship, saying this is the college I want to go to, proving to them why you're going to be a fit for their team, you don't think they're going to scrub your social media? They're not going to look at your Twitter, your Instagram, your TikTok, your this, your that. You're crazy, because they're not going to put their personal livelihood on the line, nor the reputation of their college or program. Those are facts. And when I tell you we scrub the social media of every single player we have every single day, that's part of our job description to avoid a catastrophe. These 15, 16, 17, sometimes 11, 12, 13-year-old adolescent minds, mom and dad, in a society that is completely crumbling. I don't care if it's about the election, or if it's about racial circumstances or police or whatever. We know where we are, and everyone's got an opinion. But boy, this weapon can do more damage than so many others. This one is the one that resonates, I think, the most for me and hopefully for you. You know, boys will be boys. Oh, mean girls will be mean girls. Oh, they're just being kids. Okay. Well, you know, you're walking down the hallway by the gym lockers, and a couple of girls see the boy getting dressed for gym class, and he's in his underwear, and they snap a pic. And I'm not saying that they have to go launch it on Instagram. I'm saying they're going to put it on a group thread with 5 or 6 girls, and it then possibly spreads like wildfire. I don't care if it goes to 2 kids, but they send that picture of that kid in his underwear. Or to the boys who see the girl with the locker room door this open, who's putting on her jersey over her sports bra, boom, pic, send it out. Well, let me tell you what you just did with that. You know, the boys being boys and mean girls being mean girls, kids being kids. When you get a knock on your door, and this is for my student athlete agents, it's not going to come from the principal. It's not going to come from the athletic director, and it's definitely not going to come from mom and dad. It's going to come from the police. And it's going to come from the police because that picture that you took and disseminated, that's child pornography. And you know what child pornography leads to when you get that free ride down to the police station? Even though you didn't have anything to do with it, you just happened to be on the thread. Well, you know what? You just happened to be guilty by association because you didn't do anything about it. And that child pornography graduates to child sex offender. You're now a registered sex offender. Congratulations. That'll do well in your next step to going to college, playing in college, getting a job, trying to move into a community. That is never going away. All because we wanted to have a little fun with a picture of the kid in his underwear. Facts. And the reason why I can say, I can look at this camera and say it so convincingly is because if you think I'm making any of this up, try me. Google any of these types of keywords. Take a look, do a little research on that Google web engine, and I will promise you, you will find athletic programs coast to coast that have been decimated at the high school level based on this type of behavior and this type of irresponsibility with this weapon. The dangers of social media and its consequences, and mom and dad, you got to be better sheriffs, because I know you don't think it's going on under your nose and in your house. All right, volunteering in the community. This one I'll be a little faster on, so I have better time for the leaders in anti-bullying. Look, it's a lost art, man. You just don't see it anymore. Where are these kids spending their time? Playing Fortnite, playing FIFA, whatever the hot video game is, making TikTok videos. Are they out in the community? Are they contributing? You got 5 animals, you got 1 dog. Why not the ASPCA? You live in a town that's pretty fortunate. There are some towns not far from you that are less fortunate. And those kids, they have athletic programs too. They need help to referee, to, chalk the fields, to help raise money so they can buy uniforms and equipment that's decent. Volunteer. For me, the best one, the easiest one, special needs. Why? Because there are special needs athletic affiliations in every community. Your high school probably has one with Unified of Special Olympics New York. The one common denominator about special needs is that those children didn't choose to be special needs. That was not a choice of theirs. And so they love sports too. And oftentimes they love the same sport that you play. And they have leagues and they have programs where they don't need the $2,500 pity check from mom and dad that they'll use as a tax write-off. They need able-bodied volunteers, mom and dad, like your son or daughter. For all of those agents, they need you to go referee, to coach, to do the scorebook, to do whatever. They need you to help out and contribute. I don't care if it's for 3 hours every other Saturday, and then maybe 1 or 2 hours a week, Monday through Friday. You're doing 10 hours a month over the course of 6, 8, 10 months, and you're putting that on a college application. That not only is going to jump off of the chart, it's going to show how selfless and how good of a human being you are. But guess what? It also results, mom and dad, in some sort of merit scholarship, and your kid just got another $10,000 and has already earned $17,500 in scholarships, which is more than what Jordan Montgomery got as a Division I player at South Carolina when he was a member of a national championship team. These are facts. So, to volunteer in the community and be selfless, to have the awareness of the bullying, the social media, those kinds of things, it all leads into this last point regarding bullying. I kind of jumped the gun there because what I didn't tie in any one of those examples on the social medias, and if you could transition now, please, Mr. Friesen, we're down the home stretch. We're 3 minutes out. What I didn't tie in was the fact that times have changed. So if you could bring up the photos, Mr. Friesen, I will introduce these pictures by saying, back in the day, bullying may have existed on the school bus and down the hallway or on the playground. And then when the bell rang and everybody went home, student athletes, kids, whatever, they got a break from bullying. They got to be around their house, their parents, their friends. They got to do the things that they liked, and it just went away. They got a break until sadly the next day. It existed and it was tough, but it's not like today. Why? Because of everything I just mentioned on this. Your TikToks, your social media platforms, your Facebooks, those kids that are getting bullied, they get home, there's no break. It exacerbates. It's worse. They go home and that problem gets worse. And when I am in person and I say to every student athlete that would be in front of me right now, I'd say, listen, I want you to describe this kid for me. I want you to tell me what would be said of him if he was walking down the hall. I'm not saying you'd say it, but what about the person, the girl 3 lockers down, the smart aleck player on your team? What would they say? How would they describe him? And I hear fat, dork, geek, loser, unathletic, 4 eyes. I hear all of it. You know who else hears it? The kid that walks that hallway, boy or girl. They hear it every day. They hear it at high schools. They hear it at middle schools. They hear it at elementary schools. And it is not making fun. It is not teasing. It's bullying. And if you don't think that is an epidemic, you are nuts. And you do not have to watch Netflix and certain shows. You can read the newspaper or watch the nightly news. It is a huge problem. It is getting worse. It is not getting better. And these young men and women hearing those kinds of things are taking the most extreme, heart-wrenching of measures to making the bullying stop. So these student athletes, my agents on this call, they want to go play in college. Well, I look at it this way. If you're an athlete on the field now and you're supposed to be a leader, right? That's part of the categories that comes with the territory of being an athlete. You got to be a leader. It's not enough to be a leader on the field. You need to be a leader often. You need to ensure that all of that stuff that I just described does not happen. It is your job to protect that kid from hearing that. It is your job to say, knock it off. It's not tough to walk down the hallway. It's not hard to sit in the cafeteria. It is easy to sit with them at the pizza place on Friday night and say hello. You will learn something about them. You will definitely learn something about yourself, and you will be part of the solution. But for that same student athlete, boy, You think this is going to be easy? You want to run off to that college? You want to be that hotshot freshman? Let me tell you something. Those 20 and 21-year-old men and women that I alluded to, those juniors and seniors, they're going to tease you. They're going to haze you. They're going to bully you. Sadly, it's a rite of passage. And you're going to be on a campus 3 hours from home with 6,000 strangers. You're going to lay in your bed on that college campus wondering why this is happening to you. Maybe you should think about how you treated people when you had a chance to make a difference in your community. It's called karma, and it's real. Now, I'm very, very aware that the student athletes I'm talking to, they're not the bullies, at least not all of them. We know who they are. Mom and dad, sadly, you do too. But because I am probably more aware that the student athletes are the ones getting bullied, oftentimes by their own teammates. Well, when I tell you that not only do I understand it, but for the kid that you're looking at in these pictures that heard all of those kinds of words, the fats, the dorks, the geeks, the unathletics, you know, there's an expression. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. That everybody out there has a gift inside. They do something special. They have something unique within them. And that if you have courage and you have confidence, that no bully in the world can break through that. I know that because those photos, that kid has been talking to you for 50 minutes now. And all of a sudden, that kid don't look the same. All of a sudden, that kid, he hasn't done so bad. And that kid knew what was inside, just like you know what's inside. What is that gift? Figure it out, develop it, cherish it, harness it, make it your Teflon. Because if you're an athlete and you go up against an opponent with courage and confidence, that opponent's in for the fight. No different with the bully here. No different with the bully. Do not let that bully define who you are and what you want to be. You can do it. It is within you. So when I say that, in summary, anything we're talking about tonight, specifically this topic, bullying, it is a collective effort from student athlete agents to mom and dad, to coaches, to administrators, all of us. We have to stop being part of the problem and really, really gravitate toward, embrace being part of the solution. All right, Mr. Friesen, you can take down those photos. I don't think we're doing a whole lot of interaction tonight, but I do want to at least once again say that tip of the cap to you, tip of the cap to the school district. I know you guys did a lot in a challenging time through COVID and budgets and the rest of it, managing, trying to get on the field and taking things like tonight off the field and making it available. I do want to say to not just you, thank you, but to all of the people that logged in, thank you. And it's a true testament to how this high school, how this individual, how they really do care about you. Do not forget that. And look, we're all in this together, right? We're all in this together. So I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to reach out, Mr. Friesen is going to have this recorded, and I'll also have all that material available for you as well. All yours, sir.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Yes, all the material I'll post to the North Babylon School District's website, specifically the athletics page. The video posted it there as well. Mark, thank you so much for coming, and what a great message you deliver. I appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to get you here in person at some point.
We'll get there. Let's hope we all get there sooner than later, right?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everybody have a great night. And Mark, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Mr. Friesen. Thanks again, everyone.